In this video you will learn how to create 1D elements, like rigids, bars and beams. What are rigid elements? Rigid body elements are the most simple of 1D elements and simply connect two or more nodes together. There are two types of rigid elements in HyperMesh, that is RBE2 and RBE3. In the case of an RBE2, one node serves as the independent and the other the dependent node. The dependent nodes simply follow the motion of the independent node in the degrees of freedom that have been linked. These elements are useful to simply represent bolts or to tie together two dissimilar meshes. One word of caution though is that RBE2 elements, as they rigidly link nodes together, can induce a stiffness to the model that may not be desired. For this example, let's first create rigid RBE2 element for the given component. Go to Rigids option in the 1D panel. Change the selector to Single Node Selector. With the Independent Node Selector active, pick a node from the component. With the Dependent Node Selector active, pick a node from the other component, which you want to connect. Click Create and you can see an element is created, connecting the two components. When you click on Review button and click on the element, it displays the details of the element. Here, I represents the independent node and D represents the dependent node. Now, let's see how a bolt is represented with RBE2 element. Change the independent node selector to calculate node and dependent node selector to multiple nodes. With the extended entity, select the dependent node selector by path. Select the nodes around the hole. Click Create and you can see a spider is formed. When you review the elements formed, you can see an independent node located at the center. Let's repeat the same steps with the other hole which is to be bolted with. Now, let's create a beam to connect both the holes. Go to Hyperbeam option in the 1D panel. Within the Standard Section sub-panel, change the Standard Section Library to Hyperbeam Library and Standard Type to Solid Circle. Click Create and it will take you to the Hyperbeam View page. Change the radius of the beam according to the geometry. Here, we use 5 mm. Go to File menu and exit the window. You can see the beam section collector added to the model browser. Let's create a property for the beam. Change the card image to pbeam or pbml. Select the beam section from the available option. Now, go to Bars option in the 1D panel. Select the property created and choose element type SE-beam. With the Node A selector active, select the center node of the spider. With the Node B selector active, select the center node of the other spider. you can see an element created between the two holes. Change the orientation to x-axis, since it is a solid circular beam. To visualize 1D element as 3D, change the 1D element representation to 1D element detailed representation. The element will turn to a solid circle. This is how a bolt is created using our BE2 and Beam 1D elements. Next, let's see how a bolt is created using our BE3 rigid element. What are BE3 elements? Our BE3 elements, on the other hand, serve to distribute loads without inducing unwanted stiffness. It is not an element to be used to model a connection, but rather an element to induce a motion in a node as a function of the weighted average of other nodes. To create RBE3 elements, go to RBE3 option in the 1D panel. Change Dependent Node Selector to Single Node Selector. Similar to RBE2, create a RBE3 element between the components. When you review the element, you can see unlike RBE2 the dependent and independent nodes are reversed. Let's create our BE3 element for a hole and see. When you review the spider created, you can see all the independent nodes around the hole and the dependent node at the center. Now, let's create the RBE3 element to the other hole and represent the bolt in the similar fashion. Thank you for watching the video.